Hello, my name is Mike and I'm a front-end engineer at CloudMine, and I'm here today to talk about something that a lot of people have issues with when they're using the CloudMine JavaScript library, and that is figuring out how to debug the library when things go wrong. So what I've done is I've created this simple script here on the left, and all it does is it requires the CloudMine JavaScript SDK, which you can download at npm or bower. And we do some configuration here to set our app ID, API keys, and our root. And then we're going to make a call to the JavaScript library. So in this case, we're making a get call, and we are passing in an object ID. So we're going to try and look up this object, ABC123, in our database. So let's just go ahead and run that. And we get a 404, so the object doesn't exist. Now, a 404 is pretty straightforward, but sometimes you'll get strange errors back. You'll get 500s, or you could get weird 401s that you're not expecting. And a lot of the times it may be difficult to figure out what is going wrong. And this is especially true when you're chaining multiple things. So if you're fetching objects, and when you get that object, you're immediately firing off a JavaScript snippet using the JavaScript library from CloudMine. That's when things can start getting a little muddled, and these debugging steps can help. So there's a couple of ways that you can debug the JavaScript SDK. The main thing that you can do is to use your application itself and display all of the information that is going into the API call. So the way we're going to do that is pretty straightforward. We're going to come here to where we have our CloudMine web service making the actual get call via the get method, and we're just going to set that equal to a variable. So basically what happens in the JavaScript SDK is anytime you make a call, it could be to our get endpoint, it could be to a search endpoint, an upload, doesn't matter. We create an API call object which will contain all of the information that's being sent to CloudMine and received from CloudMine. And so now that we have this API call object here, it's very, very simple. We can just go ahead and we're going to print out the API call. And now if we run our program, you'll see we get a whole bunch of stuff here. So it's still going to error out. If you look over here, we still get the 404, but we get a whole bunch of detail about the configuration and what is sent to CloudMine via the SDK here. So there's a couple of important things that you'll want to take a look at. The first is just kind of making sure everything that you expect to be set is properly set. So we can get our type method here. So this will be if it's a get, post, put, delete, whatever kind of HTTP method you expect to be, just make sure it's the same here. We can get all of our options. So sometimes API keys or app IDs get mixed up, and so you might be hitting one app that you think is another, and so the objects you expect to exist don't. So you can just kind of confirm that your app ID, API key, and all of that is correct. If you're passing a query, so in this case we have our keys, all of this information is in the request, and we've got the request headers. So again, our API keys, make sure that's all good, make sure our content type is properly set, and basically all of your request information is here. So this makes it really, oh, and this is another important area. This URL here, just make sure the URL looks good. A lot of times you'll have a misconfigured URL, or maybe your app ID isn't being properly set, or you've got some request parameters that are going wrong, or some of your data is wrong if it's a post. And this is a very easy way to check to see if that is the case.